Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Today, we are going to discuss in our webinar basics understandings of standards-based grading as we make this transition in Flossmoor School District 161. We're really glad to have you with us this evening. My name is Annabelle Crawford. I am the Director of Learning and Instruction for Flossmoor School District 161. This webinar is being recorded, so parents can have future reference to it. It will be posted on our website tomorrow, February 9th, and we will keep it up there in case you know anyone who wasn't able to make it, or if you'd like to come back and reference anything at a later date. We are going to be hosting also additional webinars throughout the school year, especially as we get closer to the first report card coming out for first quarter, and we will continue throughout the school year. So please look out for those. And again, for any of our webinars this year, if you're not able to make it, we will be sure to record it and post it on our website. As we go through the webinar this evening, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can also scan the QR code that is on the screen here, and feel free to share any questions or suggestions, and someone from our department will be sure to get back to you. So as I mentioned, for our first webinar this year, our major focus is discussing what is standards-based grading. We'll look at the key components of standards-based grading, as well as additional resources that we have available. So our vision for standards-based grading really comes from the fact that most of us on this call were likely graded under traditional letter grades. And as we make the shift to standards-based grading, it comes from the belief that grades should be meaningful, timely, and accurate. Standards-based grading helps us let parents know the exact standards and skills that children need to be successful in order to meet grade level expectations. Often in letter grades, that is harder to be transparent with because it's usually based on various assignments as well as other factors like behavior and maybe points given for turning in a permission slip or something like that. That may not be as transparent as we need to be to help the report card grades be meaningful, timely, and accurate. So we'll look at each of these components this evening. The main components of standards-based grading are that behaviors and academics are reported separately. And we'll talk through that in just a bit. Another key component is that grades are based on proficiency of a standard. We'll talk through what those standards are and how we've organized them for this school year. And then also the grades are reported using a 4-point scale. So instead of letter grades ranging from A to U or A to F, the grades will now be reported using a 4-point scale. So starting with the key component that academics and behaviors should be reported separately. We'll start with learner behaviors. Learner behaviors are the good habits that all students need to develop in order to be successful in school. These are all based on things that we've encouraged students to do before. Everyone encourages their students to do these things at home also. But we've narrowed down our learner behaviors based on the categories of our Portrait of a Graduate in SD 161. So things like managing time effectively, following directions, communicating, writing neatly, those will now be all measured on a report card separately from what a student can demonstrate academically. And I want to stress, and we will stress this to students as well, that behaviors are just as important as the academic learning, because what we know is that these are the essential skills needed for students to be consistently successful in school. So the other major component of standards-based grading is that reporting is based on a 4-point scale. So students are going to be measured on specific standards, which we'll talk through in just a moment. And instead of receiving a letter grade, again, which is sort of a general average of all assignments completed for a subject, students will now be graded on a specific standard within a 4-point scale. So what the scale is measuring is proficiency of that standard. So our ultimate goal is that students are proficient in the grade level standards for whatever grade level they're at, and also whatever subject is being reported. So again, going back to our vision for standards-based grading, we really want to be more transparent and specific with parents and with students, so that our grades become a guide for setting goals and moving forward and enriching our learning versus just sort of telling us a general average. So at the level 4, it says that students will demonstrate in-depth skills knowledge that goes beyond the learning standard, down to either insufficient evidence, which would mean that for various reasons, a student may not have been able to complete the work and it needs to be finished up, or the student did not complete the work, and then that's where the IE would be. Or if it's a standard that's coming up later and we haven't graded it this quarter, the report card will reflect NG or not yet graded. So where do the standards come from? The state of Illinois provides us with robust learning standards at all grade levels and in all subjects. This summer, our teachers at all of our grade levels and in our core subjects worked to organize these standards by quarter, also to reflect our instructional priorities. This allows us to really prioritize the standards that students need to master early on in the school year to be successful later. Also to identify the things that are most important. There are many, many standards that are shared with us through the state of Illinois. And so this summer, our teachers worked really hard to make sure that they are organized, prioritized, and setting students up for success. Those standards were organized into year-long overviews. Those year-long overviews will now become our guide for instruction. They will also be the standards that will be reported on our report cards. So for quarter 1 all the way to quarter 4, we've identified the most important standards that students need to show proficiency on, and that's what will be reported using that 4-point scale. We will also post the year-long overviews on our websites. It's really important, again, going back to the theme of transparency, that parents have the understanding of what students are expected to know and learn throughout the school year. So we will put those up and make sure that you are able to see them as your guide to know what's coming up and also what things your child is working on in the current quarter. So let's take a look at just an example of traditional versus standards-based grading. In a traditional setting, a third grader's report card will have a grade of B+ for math. It doesn't really tell us much. It's usually based on the averages of assignments completed during that quarter. Again, there may be various behaviors or tasks that are also included in that grade. Doesn't tell us much about what that student can do. In a standards-based grading system, a third grader's report card will now show the exact Illinois learning standard, as well as the skills that are needed in order that a student needs to demonstrate in order to be successful on that standard. So going back to those year-long overviews, we've identified all of those standards and broken them down into quarter. And again, this is what will be reflected on a student's report card. So you can see an example here. The report card now gives us much more detail, gives us the standard as well as the evidence. This is an example from a 6th grade report card with the standard listed as well as the actual skills needed. So where can parents go for more information? Again, we want to make sure that we are being transparent in this process, and transparency being a theme in standards-based grading in general. This is just the first of many webinars that we will do throughout the school year, making sure that parents really understand the report card as well as understand the grading, and most importantly, understand what students need to know to be successful at their grade level. So you can always contact our Department of Learning and Instruction. We will be sure to answer any questions that you have. As I mentioned, we are planning a first quarter webinar as well as webinars coming throughout the school year that will be live, but also will be recorded and available on our website. You can also visit our district website at sd161.org. We've compiled several resources, including a frequently asked questions list, just based on questions that we've received so far, as well as just general information that we know parents will need as we make this transition. There's also some helpful resources, including any of our parent letters that we've sent so far regarding standards-based learning. Also, again, if you'd like to share a question or a suggestion in the Google form, please feel free to. And that QR code is will be on the screen on the next slide, and someone from our department will be sure to get back to you. If you go to our district website at sd161.org and click on departments and learning and instruction, you will see that list of FAQs as well as several other resources to help parents understand standards-based grading. The learner behaviors are there, as well as the grading resources. And this is also where we will be adding those year-long overviews to let parents know what we will be instructing students in throughout the school year. Again, the QR code is here. So if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to send it to us. We thank you so much for joining us this evening. We will post the webinar recording again sometime tomorrow. So if you know anyone who was not able to join us this evening, or if you want to come back for future reference, please be sure to check the website tomorrow. Thank you so much again. I hope everyone has a great evening.